Well, my name's Ned Dominick. I was in class of 71, Bangalore 1. And this has been an amazing event. It's stimulated just incredible amounts of memories and putting things together. When I came to Callison, I was a pretty inward boarding school graduate from the East Coast and arrived at Callison to a bunch of seeming lunatics, and almost overnight turned into an extroverted person. And at the time, the revolution seemed to be happening. Everybody was, come the revolution, we were going to change the world, and that's what we set out to do. I went to India and had my mind just split wide open by the India experience, and traveled far and wide. Callison would let us do the most amazing things. For the Christmas month, they would set you off, I think it was 600 rupees, and come back and see us in a month. And we would leave Bangalore, India, and just head into the hinterlands, and nobody knew where we were or what we were doing. It was astonishing. We being me and a couple of other folks, went to India, to Kathmandu, Nepal, and Benares, and Goa, and just all over India. Sometimes we hitchhiked, sometimes we took trains, sometimes planes, and always completely on our own. It's amazing. For some of us, got back alive. Job Thomas said today it was a great and terrifying risk, and indeed it was. In retrospect, it was unbelievably risky, but it was really rich. And when I came back from India, I got involved very politically and was involved with the anti-war protests, and was actually the head of the campus strike when we shut down the University of Pacific, and right after the invasion of Cambodia. And that was an amazing time, and kind of set me as being an activist for the rest of my life. And so I've been active in a lot of different ways, and live in Macon, Georgia now. I've lived there for 35 years, or however long it's been, and just been involved in everything there. And I think, as I'd said in some other comments, along the way became a Christian, which was antithesis pretty much of what anyone was doing at that point. That was a pretty dirty word, and for a lot of good reasons. And yet found that was probably the most revolutionary thing I've ever done, and have had equally astonishing adventures, somewhat like Callison, and going around the world again, but this time as a missionary. Maybe Callison's only missionary, I don't know. But it's been an amazing ride, and I'm certainly glad that I did it. And the reason is, I think that most Christians think it's a good thing. I don't know if it's a Christian thing, but I know a lot of people who think that it's a good thing. Look at the 300,000 or 400,000 people that Saddam Hussein butchered and put into mass graves, and I don't know why that's not an issue. Why it's okay for Saddam Hussein to butcher people, why his sons were allowed to put people into grinders that were used for grinding industrial plastics for the fun of it, and at the same time threaten the mother of all nuclear wars that he was going to bring to America, and why this was all just hunky-dory. I must say I agree with your friends and think that it was an excellent thing to get rid of Saddam Hussein. I don't think that's what we're doing. I don't think we're butchering 300,000 people. I think that we had a war, and there have been casualties, and I think that's really a drag that there have been. And yet, had we sat there and continued to do nothing, this was the same guy that got into a war with Iran in which 6 million people were killed in that. He killed and gassed his own people, hundreds of thousands of his own people, invaded Kuwait, threatened the rest of the world. This guy was pretty intense, and to leave him there and he didn't.
And they were gassed.
That's right. Well, I think Reagan Bush was, and I think they were. If they supported him, they were certainly supporting him at the time when Iran was holding American hostages, and everybody was playing those détente games back then. Remember, that was.
Yeah, but you said 6 million people. That's a lot of people.
That's right, and that's what went down with with Iraq, Iran, and that's a lot of people. You know, it's interesting, but you know, the same thing went down in World War II, and there was a boatload of you know, we were all freaked out about Auschwitz and all that stuff with the Jews, and yet at the beginning of World War II, a boatload of Jews were trying to leave Germany and tried to come to America, and we turned them back.
So did England.
Yeah, and yet, and so I think that all of America since then, all of our culture said that was a terrible thing to do, and that one of the great justifications of World War II, of course, was the release of the Jews and the release of the Gypsies and all the other people that Hitler was doing. That was one of the justifications, and I don't think anybody would disagree that that was a legitimate justification. And there's and the other thing about Saddam is that he was not sitting there benign saying, well, this is just happening inside of my borders. He was aggressive. He was constantly moving out. He moved into Kuwait. He did the thing with Iraq. He was certainly threatening Saudi. And whether or not you think this was a war for oil or not, a lot of people say, well, this is a war for oil. One thing is for sure, that if the oil supply from the Middle East was jacked around, for example, let's say the prices went up 50%. Kiss our economy, kiss the Western economy goodbye. And whether or not an American oil company made a single dollar, let's assume they did not, the rest of the whole can of worms would go down. You know, I think we'll find out whether they've lied about the weapons of mass destruction. Well, do you think that if we were to pull out and lay down, that the Middle East is going to stay there quietly and they're not going to come visit us? You know, this is part and parcel. The other thing, you have people with the right and the left, and there is very little middle ground now. But you've got the right and the left, and there's no middle ground at this point, and it's exacerbated by the whole thing called the culture wars, and the culture wars go much further, much deeper than the Iraqi situation. They go back into the whole issue of the family issues, religious freedoms, right on down the line. Homosexual marriage, for example, culture wars, and you can go on all day, and we can talk it back and forth, but the fact of the matter is that is where the divide is going right now.
See, there's no live and let live. You know?
On either side.
Well, on either side. Yeah.
And I was not relaxed when I shut this university down.
Well, you know.
And I don't see the members of ACT UP being particularly relaxed, or
Or move on.
yeah, or I don't see any relaxation on either side. Absolutely, and that's pretty much where we've gotten right now. We're in a mess in this country, and it's going to be interesting to see where it's going to shake out. But it is going to shake out somehow, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, this election is going to be wild. Half the people are going to be happy, and half the people will be wrong. It's going to be 2% one way or the other, and it's going to be unpleasant regardless of who wins.
Can you conclude this one?
Yeah. Bye.
Okay, bye.